Welcome to Kendo Rant. Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, I've got loads of questions and not much time, so let's get right through these. First one, hi, do you think we should practice Suburi with our Borgu? No, I don't. You should do it without your Borgu generally. Do stuff like Kirikaishi and stuff with your partners with Borgu. There's not a great deal of reason to do Suburi with your Borgu on. Next one. Hello Andy, quick question. After Kihon training, we do have some time for Jigeko with senseis that are in our dojo. I'd like to know if it's somehow rude to leave a sensei unattended, whereas others sometimes right beside him do have lots of kenshis waiting for their keiko. In my early days, 25 years ago, I learned that it was rude. Since then, I saw it a couple of times, and I must recognise that it bothered me quite a lot, to be honest. Every time I see it, I either go for it as a sign of respect, or as a senpai, encourage others to go and do keiko with that sensei. I know that normally we like to do keiko with senseis who get along, but today I'm not sure if it's okay or not. Especially now that in my dojo, Uchikomi and Kihon takes 95% of the practice time. So what you're saying is when there's a sensei standing as motodachi when you're doing Jigeko and people are queuing, and there's a sensei with nobody queuing for them, is it rude to leave them queuing there? Leave them standing there. Yes, it's rude. You're doing the right thing. You shouldn't leave. There shouldn't be senseis waiting with nobody to queue for them. It's not right, okay, in Kendo to pick and choose your opponents. That's not how you're supposed to do it, right? Yeah, of course, there's sensei that you want to practice with, but I'm not being funny, but if you want to practice with a certain sensei, get your men on before everybody else and make sure you're first in the queue. If you're not first in queue, if you're not first, second, third in the queue, you're like fourth, fifth, sixth in the queue, and there's other people that are stood there waiting for practice. It's your fault for not getting your men on fast enough. You should go and practice with those sensei. All right, that's just manners. Yeah, and you can learn something from that as well. You can't just only practice with the sensei you want to practice with. That isn't how you do kendo, okay? So you're right in this question, for asking this question. You're right, you should go and practice with them or encourage those who are junior to definitely go and do that. If I saw that happening in a dojo that I was sort of, overseeing, if I was like the lead sensei there, I would be very upset if that happened, if there was a sensei coming and people weren't practicing them properly. Okay, next one. How is dojo switching seen in Japan? Of course, if someone moves, it's normal to go to different dojo. But what if one's dojo practice is not matching one's goals anymore, even if it did in the past? Is it seen as normal for one to change dojo? Do people still stay friends after the change? Thank you very much. Please keep this question anonymous. Okay, that's anonymous. They're all anonymous. I don't name and shame anyone. But right. Dojo switching isn't something that you can just do in Japan. You can't just say, okay, I've been practicing here for a year now. I don't want to anymore. I'll just go and practice somewhere else. You can really upset people by doing that. It's not a good way to do it, right? And the reason is like, oh, this dojo isn't suiting my practice goals. It doesn't. I can't imagine a good outcome to this, because you're going to have to go to the sensei of the dojo you're at right now first and explain to them that you want to leave that dojo to go and practice at another dojo, and you're going to have to give them a reason why, because that's the decent thing to do, right? You don't just that dojo has spent time and effort and invested that into your kendo. You can't just turn your back on that and walk away. That's a very rude thing to do, right? You need to, at least talk to them. But if you go to them and say, the way you practice doesn't match my goals, you're effectively saying the way you practice is wrong. Because there aren't that many different goals in kendo. There's doing correct kendo and not doing correct kendo, like the two main options, right? So that dojo is, I'm sure, holding the belief that they are teaching you and the other people at that dojo the way in which to pursue correct kendo, and correct kendo is what is successful in Shiai, it's what's successful in Shodan Shinsa engradings, and it's what's overall correct, right? So look, obviously it's hard for me to say without knowing any of the people involved, but I recommend before you start looking at switching dojos and stuff like that, if they practice on the same day, that's one thing. If they practice on different days, then perhaps you could go to both of them. but I'd maybe you could even make an excuse that that's not a bad idea. You could even say, look, this dojo practice on a different night, and I've got a different commitment, work or family commitment, make it difficult for me to come on this day. So I'm thinking to start practicing at that club instead. Is a potential way around it, but you might be faced with disappointment from the people at your current club. All right, so it's something you have to treat with care, really. And I think you should also sort of think about whether you really are moving dojo for the right reason. In terms of not meeting your goals. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking to the teachers at the current dojo you're at and saying, look, I'm really, really wanting to do this, whether it's you want to compete in Shiai or I want to try out for my next grade. How can I get the most out of my practice in order to achieve that? And there's a very good chance that they'll sort of help you and maybe, provide more of a sort of, thing for that in the practice. So, yeah. Right, next one. Have you ever worn, or how do you feel about the white Kendogi and Hakama? I used to wear it sometimes. I used to when I used to think I was Flash. I don't wear it anymore, to be honest. It's got its advantages. It's dead easy to wash. It's a lot easier to sort of wash and look after if you're talking about a cotton Kendogi than an indigo dyed one. But these days we've got like these really brilliant synthetic Kendogi and Hakama, like the Gaia set and stuff like that. So I don't wear a white one. Instead, I just wear like I'm talking in summer and stuff. I just wear one of those. So yeah, I don't. I think I do own one white set somewhere. My wife likes to wear it sometimes. And my daughter used to wear white actually. It's kind of the Imperial Police do it. In Japan, the Imperial Police do it, and otherwise it's generally women that tend to do it. Not only, there are some guys that do it as well, but it's a little bit of a sort of sticking out thing, to be honest. But anyway, each to their own though. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to, go ahead. Like, I'm not judging you for it. Just like I've said this before, by the way, if anyone tells you shouldn't wear it, they're wrong, because that's not what Kendo's about either. Just you're asking me what I think about it. So I just like wearing blue. Next one, quick dry materials for Bogu. How does it compare to cotton for durability? Will KendoStar make stock set or have one available for custom orders? Okay, so you're talking about instead of using like the traditional cottons and leathers for the Bogu construction, you're talking like I expect like a kind of polyester type materials that you see with like synthetic Kendogis and stuff. We don't currently have that sort of thing on KendoStar, but it's something I'm actually looking at as we speak. I'm looking at it for a set of kote that I have in development right now, because I do think that it's nice to have a kind of quick dry, very easy to wash type of kote. I don't think, I never say never, but I don't have any plans to make a full Bogu using that material though, because I don't think it looks very nice, particularly when it's done on a men and a tare. I think it looks a little bit odd, and it's a bit of a gimmick when it comes to the men and tare sort of thing. I think the sort of traditional materials look nicer. Durability wise, I wouldn't say there's that massive difference, to be honest, especially for the, unless you're someone that trains like 6-7 times a week, which most of us aren't. I'm certainly not. You probably won't experience a massive difference in terms of durability. But yeah, look out for it on KendoStar coming soon. Certainly in terms of kote. Next one. Okay. Now, there was a question, and I've not put it on my paper, but I remember reading it, so I might get the quote wrong. But it said about asymmetrical sonkyo in Kendo, whether when did it become asymmetrical, and when did it stop being symmetrical? So I'm assuming that when you say symmetrical, I mean when you sit sort of straight on, like they do the sonkyo in sumo, where they sit straight on, and sort of in sumo they do this and all that, don't they? I don't know, really. I don't know that much about it. Let's see what it says in the book. Oof. Okay, here we are. I'm back here now with the official guide for Kendo instruction, and I'm going to look at the page that talks about Sonkyo. Now, this is a book that I've used a lot, and the pages have even started to fall out. That's how much I've used it. In fact, the page I'm talking about is already fallen out. So yeah, you'll be able to buy this on KendoStar again soon. It's out of stock at the minute. It's actually out of stock with the Zenken. So as soon as it comes back in stock, we'll have them again. So look, it says here that you should sort of step up. I don't think you can see it on there, but you should step up with your left foot slightly behind. And I believe that's so that when you stand up, you're essentially not having to move your feet from Chudan. To form Chudan. If you do the fully symmetrical one where your feet are completely next to each other, when you step up, you'll either have to put your foot forward or put a foot backwards in order to stand in Chudan. Whereas this way, the way that the Zenkenren are teaching as the standard way, your left foot's slightly behind. It's just turned out to the left slightly. So as you come down Sonkyo, like this way, when you stand up, as you stand up, your legs straighten, so you're already in your Chudan or Kamae. And I think that's the reason for it. As to when it changed, I don't know. I don't know even if it was not like that before. I expect in the past there was probably several different ways of doing it. And even now, it's not like if you do it the symmetrical way, someone's going to be necessary. You know, you're not like going to be disqualified from a Shiai, or you're not going to fail a grading for it even, I don't think. So, yeah. Okay, and next one also says Kendo Kata Kensen height. Seems more and more like high ranked performers have their tip low, like in Shinai Chudan. I think that's because back in the day, sort of in the past, the chair's sort of falling down here. There we go, that's Marky. Right. In the past, they used to have the Kensen very, very high, almost at their own eye height. But yeah, recently, I think probably because Kendo has become more and more, I don't want to say modernized, but because Kendo has become more and more, the practice of Shinai Kendo has become more prevalent. I think it's just become closer to the way you hold the Shinai just over the years. Okay, and the next one says, do you find benefit to training with a dummy to help with more advanced techniques? Or do you think working with another person should take priority? Working with another person should probably take priority, to be honest. It's not like Uchikomi Dai, the practice dummy, they're a great thing for solo practice. But for like advanced techniques, it depends what you mean by advanced techniques, really. But, if you got the opportunity to practice with a live opponent, you're definitely better off doing that. But yeah, I mean, if you've got access to a practice dummy, certainly make use of it for the times you're unable to practice with someone else. Next one, calluses. I often find that calluses get very thick on my palms when I'm wearing the boga, but then occasionally tear off when I do suburi, particularly if I'm using a suburi doll. The ones on my feet are always there, but going to a new dojo floor can sometimes make them split or tear off. I've had lots of different advice over the years, but wondered what you thought about it. What would you recommend for your hands and feet? So, as you can probably see, mine are, it's part of Kendo life for me, to be honest. I'm kind of at the stage now where, they just go in cycles. They tear off every 6 months or so, whatever it is, and then grow back again, and I just leave them. I just live with it. To be honest, it's not really pleasant, I know, but I do. That's. I don't know if there is much you really can do. I've heard all sorts of different advice and stuff, but I've never seen anything that actually works. So, if you know something, leave it in the comments. Next one, and this one's linked actually. It says, my question is about how to treat our feet to avoid blisters and other troubles. So look, you get blisters on your feet mainly for having your feet like this way, not for having your toes all straight. If you have your toes straight, your hips are straight, it means that when you cut and you move forward, you'll move directly forward. But if you've got your feet this way, you'll try to push forward, and doing so, you'll twist your feet on the floor, and that'll cause blisters and tears on your skin. What you can do is if you get, it's quite common, especially it depends on the sort of floor that you're using, but it's quite common, of course, for the skin to split at the base of the big toe on the left foot. You can wrap a little bit of tape around that. I use like a zinc oxide tape or something you can just get on Amazon. And you can, I just wrap a bit around that just to prevent that sort of thing happening if the floor's a bit rough. Otherwise, if you're getting blisters on your feet a lot, you want to take a look at your footwork. Next one. What's the level where the type of shinai really starts to matter? If I'm really honest with you, this is going to be a super controversial opinion and probably something I shouldn't say as someone that runs a Kendo equipment shop. I don't think there's ever a level where the shinai really starts to matter. I think you could give the top level kenshi the cheapest shinai and still be able to do amazing kendo. That's what I mean by that. The type of shinai you use doesn't dictate your kendo ability, all right? However, of course, it isn't incorrect to have preferences and start to favor different types of shinai. I'd say once you've been doing kendo for sort of six months to a year, you probably start to get a feel for the sort of balance of different types of shinai. And certainly by the time you're like Ikkyu or Shodan, then yeah, I think you're at a stage where you know it's okay for you to start experimenting with different types of shinai, by all means. Even having said that though, I know that lots of people before that level also like to experiment with stuff, and there's no problem with you doing that either. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say, oh, if you're only like you know, 5th Q, you shouldn't be choosing different shinai. That's not true at all. It's totally up to you. You want to try different shinai, go ahead and do it, right? Go ahead and do it. Lots of people benefit from oval grip shinai. It helps them learn to grip the shinai properly, for example, in the beginning stages. So that's a great use for them too. One thing I would bear in mind though is if you're going for something like a dobari or a jisen gata shinai, look, those shinai aren't designed for everyday keiko. They're not designed for like repetitive strikes, kirikaishi, uchikomi, stuff like that. You're only really supposed to use them in this sort of jigeko and shiai. That's what jisen gata means. It means for shiai. So they break really quick if you use them for like kirikaishi and stuff. All right. You're best off using like an all-purpose shinai or a practice shinai or a koto gata shinai for that sort of practice, and then switching over in jigeko. That's what I normally do. I usually put the tsubo on two shinai at every practice, and usually I'll use like a koto gata shinai. We have one called hanzo. That's one I really like using for uchikomi and for kihongeko, kirikaishi, stuff like that. And then I'll swap over either to junki shinai, something like that, or I quite like the hachiman shinai as well. Or if I don't have time to do that, I'll just use the KendoStar all-purpose shinais because they're kind of good all-rounders for that. Okay, next one. How do you do suburi out in the rain? I have a new laminated shinai, but that does not allow for a good grip. Don't do suburi in the rain. Don't do suburi in the rain. Go back inside and do it inside. And if your roof's not high enough, sit in a chair and do suburi in a chair. Okay? Don't do suburi in the rain. Next, here's an interesting one. While attending the Kitamoto summer seminar, Tani Sensei mentioned a couple of times that Mokuso is not to be used, but instead we ought to use Seiza for the brief meditation moment before we do Keiko. I would love to hear you comment on that. Okay, so yes, this is true. The Zenkennen now have sort of decided that we shouldn't give the command Mokuso during the lineup. Okay, it should just be from standing Seiza and everybody sits down and they go straight to the what we call the Mokuso position, and then whoever's leading says Yame and then they stop and then hi sensei nide or whatever, shomen nide, all that sort of thing. However, that ain't, you know, it's going to be a long time if ever that becomes standard practice everywhere in Japan, because almost everywhere I've ever been to in Japan says Mokuso. All right, so yeah. Officially, that's what the Zenkennen want. In practice, I don't think that's what they're going to get for a long, long time. All right, and don't beat yourself up about it. All right, don't beat yourself up about it. If you want to do it the super official way, from standing, Seiza, everyone sits down, starts doing Mokuso, and then the person says Mokuso yame, and then you carry on. Okay, next one. Any recommendations for traveling with boga and swords? Do you use a certain luggage packed in a certain way? Do you have any problems with any airlines? Any other kendo travel tips, specifically thinking of airplanes long distance? Okay, I think I've answered this before, but I would normally I use a Budo wing bag at the moment, quite a lot for foreign travel. And what I do is I either put the boga in the Budo wing bag, or the Budo wing folds down nice and flat. And then what I do is I get like a hard shell suitcase that, you know, you can get them, you know, I don't know what size they are, but generally the Boga fits in one of those. Yeah, so I put them in there, and I usually put the Budo wing in there as well. And then what I'll do for traveling is I'll use one of the the zip up style shinai bags, and either one if it's 5 shinai or 3 shinai, and I'll put the shinai in there, zip them up, and I'll just check the whole thing in. Unfortunately, these days you often have to pay extra to check in shinai, but yeah, I usually just do that. And I just check the whole thing in. I've never had any problems up to now, touch wood. And yeah, I'm not going to name any sort of airlines that I've had problems with. I mean, I think everyone's had problems with most airlines at some point. But so far, I've been to about 40 countries up to now with my Boga. And so far, I haven't had a problem. Okay, next one. So if you've had this one before, please tell us the benefits of Kakarigeiko. Okay. So here I am again with the book, the guide for Kendo instruction, and in here on page 161 it talks about Kakarigeiko, and it says that it's different to Uchikomi Geiko because in Uchikomi Geiko the instructor, the motodachi, gives obvious striking opportunities, whereas in Kakarigeiko the attacker has to make the opportunities. And basically, look, it says in here what you have to look for as a teacher and what the motodachi must do. I mean, essentially, look, there's lots of benefits to Kakarigeiko. It's very hard practice, all right? It's very hard. It's there for training your spirit to make you become able to overcome your own push yourself past your own boundaries, help you learn to attack with stemmy, with momentum, make repeated continuous attacks, whilst instantly making judgments on where to make strikes and to create opportunities in a very short period of time, whilst under the pressure of the Kakarigeiko, which you're putting yourself under, of course, because you have to make as many attacks as you can in that small amount of time, whilst the motodachi is making your life difficult. Okay, it has many advantages, and not only is it good spiritual training, but it's very good technical training. It helps with your ashisabaki, it helps with your datotsu, your actual striking ability, as well as your breathing and fitness as well. It's got loads of benefits. Do loads of it. Next one. Okay, I'm new to Kendo and I'm 47. Eventually I'll definitely have a go at Shiai, but do they have age groups? In other words, is there a master's division? Previous martial arts I've competed in do this, as I'm probably too old to develop the speed to compete with those in the 20s, but I'd like to compete nonetheless. Okay, look, generally most Shiai aren't separated by age groups, all right? They're generally not, especially in the West, as we don't generally have enough people there to do that. But look, I don't think you need to worry about it at all. Age does not play the role in Kendo that it does in a lot of other sports. And especially, you know, what I mean by that is, look, there's plenty of people that are in the 20s that are slow. All right, it's not guaranteed that because they're young they're going to be much faster and better than you. All right, so don't be put off by it. The goal of Shiai as well isn't to go there and beat everybody. Of course, that's what you have to try and do, but the real goal is to challenge yourself and do your best when you're under the pressure of the Shiai. Okay, and try to make the Yuko Datotsu in that situation. I'm sure you'll have a great time competing. You definitely shouldn't let age put you off. You should definitely, especially as you're not so old, you should definitely go ahead and get involved with doing it. Don't worry about the way age groups and stuff like that. Okay, last one. How do you deal with two teachers from different clubs giving you advice on the same topic, especially if one is on a grading panel? Is it best to stick to the teacher's advice in your dojo and try to follow what a more experienced teacher is telling you to do? All right, this is a difficult one. I've talked about this a little bit before. It might be that what you're being told, and this is often the case. This is often the case. You know, I get asked it a lot. oh, what do you do when you've got two teachers that are telling you different things about the same topic? Often they're not telling you different things. They're just telling you the same thing in different ways. And it can sound like it's a totally different thing. But with experience, you'll come to realize they're actually saying the same sort of thing. But what you have to do in the meantime is, look, you have to work with the advice that works best for you. All right, what you feel is the best. And that will be... you'll be able to measure the effectiveness of that throughout your Kendo progression. So, you, at the end of the day, it's not the teacher's responsibility or fault in a way as to which type of advice you take. Yeah, they give you some advice. It's up to you if you take it or not. All right, so one sensei is going to give you some advice, another's going to give you another, and it's up to you which one you feel fits your current stage the best, all right, and which seems to make the most sense to you. If you feel like as well, one is contradicting the other, I don't think it's a problem to talk to your teachers about it, all right? But you'd have to do it in quite a diplomatic way though, all right? Don't just be like, well, this sensei says that you're wrong, yeah? And definitely don't say that I said anyone's wrong, all right? Because of something I said on YouTube. But what you need to do is you talk to them, maybe even after practice something like that, and just say, oh, look, about this particular topic, I was talking to such and such sensei, and they sort of said this sort of thing. How does that fit in with what you've been saying? I don't understand which way to do that. Could you explain it a little bit more? Right? And if you're saying that to the senior sensei, they might say, well, I don't know. I think the person that said that to you might have got it wrong a little bit because I think this, and they'll probably give you a clear explanation. And you can go to that other teacher. And again, don't go to them and say, that sensei said you're wrong. Go to them and say, I was talking to such and such sensei about the topic I'm working on. And he actually said this sort of thing. What are your thoughts on that, sensei? And you get his advice, and then you can somewhere meet in the middle probably, or take something, perhaps even from both, that seems to work. All right, I'm sure you'll find a way. All right, but Kendo isn't about just sensei says, look, this is difficult, right? Because if I'm not careful, I'm going to send you all on the wrong path. You do have to listen to your sensei, right? You have to follow the teachings of your sensei. But when you have this situation where two senseis are telling you something you feel is in conflict, you have to make a judgment call at that point as to what's going to work the best for you, all right? And if that means you need to clarify that with both of them before you do that, then that's a great idea, isn't it? Nothing wrong can come from that. But you can't just be like, right, well, I'm going to ignore that guy because this guy said that. You know what I mean? Because it's not that the other guy is kind of trying to teach you the wrong thing either, right? That the other sensei also wants you to learn the right way. So there's got to be some, and obviously they've become to a level that they're able to teach you, right? So they're obviously doing it right as well, okay? So there's obviously some sort of common ground there, all right? So I'm sure you can work through it, all right? But you have to take on some of the responsibility of making the judgment yourself, okay? Right, that's it. Okay, that's it for today. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. You know what to do. And join the Kendo Show Early Access group. I say it every single time. That's where most of these questions have come from. It's a great place to post your questions because it's not just me. You get responses from Kenshi from all over the world. There's a link in the description down below. It's free to join. Just go and give it a click if you haven't done already. Finally, yesterday's Kendo Gamer was a great episode. Go and watch that if you haven't seen it. We were talking about ski. That was great. And tomorrow I'll be doing another analysis video. So we've got loads planned. As always, if you like what I do, don't forget to shop at KendoStar. That's my website. Of course, it sells Kendo equipment. It's fantastic equipment. It's the best Kendo equipment in the universe. Of course, I would say that. But if you look on our reviews, you'll find we're the best reviewed Kendo shop online. So everyone seems to agree with me as well. So go and check out KendoStar.com. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you all next time.